Hello again. Lesson 6, we're going to be working on solving radical equations. So again, a radical is usually something with a square root sign. So if you see something with this symbol, whether it's got a 3 or whatever number is out front, oftentimes that's going to be a radical. So we're going to go through a couple different examples of radical equations and how to solve them. Step 1, you want to isolate the radical. Step 2, you want to raise each side to a power to get rid of that. And then step 3, you're going to solve. So first example, let's take the cubed root of 2x plus 7 equals 3. So again, your same kind of rules apply. Anything I do on the left, I also have to do on the right. The opposite of a cubed root is to raise this entire thing to a power of 3, which means I have to do that on the right side as well. So the cubed root of 3 raised, that's going to cancel out. So I'm just left with 2x plus 7, and 3 to the third power, 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. Now it's just solving like you know how to do, you've been doing since algebra. And this example, you get x equals 10. Of course, you can plug your answer back in and check your work. All right, let's do another example. In a hurricane, the mean sustained wind velocity in meters per second is given by the equation where P is air pressure in millibars at the center of the hurricane. Estimate the air pressure at the center of the hurricane when the mean sustained wind velocity is 54.5 meters per second. So again, what am I going to do? I'm going to take that number, I'm going to set it equal to this equation. First step is to isolate the radical, which means I got to get rid of this 6.3. So this is 6.3 multiplied by whatever's underneath my square root sign. So the opposite of multiplication is to divide. So this gives me about 8.65 approximately, which is equal to square root of 1013 minus p. To get rid of a square root sign, you got to square it, which means I got to square it over here. 8.65 squared is about 74.8, which again is approximately, now these two cancel out, and I'm just left with 1013 minus p. Get rid of this 1013 by subtracting 1013, or I should say 1013, and that's going to give me negative 938.2 is approximately negative p. I didn't want negative p, I wanted positive p, so if I divide by -1, I should get my final answer. So the air pressure at the center of a hurricane is about 938 millibars. Couple more examples. X plus 2 raised to the 3/4 power minus 1 equals 7. So again, my first goal is to isolate the radical, which means I want to try to get this section of the equation by itself. So I'll start by adding 1. So now I'm still left with x plus 2 to the 3/4 equals 8. And now to undo this multiplied by the 3/4, I'm going to raise it to the 4/3 power. Remember, a power raised to a power means that you multiply them. Okay, that's like a sidebar. I'm going to move it. But we've done that before. That's review. So again, in this example, if I take whatever A is, and it's to the 3/4, and I multiply it by 4/3, that's going to give me 12 over 12, which is really just a to the first, it cancels out. So when I raise something to a power like this, I need to multiply it by the reciprocal so that it cancels out. And of course, because I did it on the left side, I also have to do it on the right side. So I'm left with x plus 2 equals 8. I'm going to rewrite this as 8 to the 1/3 raised to the 4th. Again, same thing technically. I do know, however, that 8 to the 1/3 power is the same thing as the cubed root of 8, which equals 2. So I'm going to rewrite this as 2 to the 4th power. 2 to the 4th, 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 16. And then I'll subtract 2 to get my final answer of x equals 14. Let us do an example with an extraneous solution. Okay, so this is something that you will be expected to do on your assignment, extraneous solution. So if we take this example of x plus 1 equals the square root of 7x plus 15, I'm going to start, again, separating the left side and the right side. I'm going to start by squaring both sides. And so this is x plus 1 times x plus 1, which you may have to FOIL. So again, remembering how to do that, x times x is x squared plus 1x plus 1x plus 1. So really I have x squared plus 2x plus 1 equals 7x plus 15. We should probably set this equal to 0. So I'm going to start by subtracting 7x, and I'm also going to subtract 15. So I'm left with x squared minus 5x minus 14 equals 0. Mr. Larson likes to do the factor x, so he's going to say, what two numbers multiply to get negative 14, but add to get negative 5? Well, that's going to be negative 7 and positive 2. So I can factor this as x minus 7 and x plus 2, which if we use the zero product property, again, anything multiplied by 0 equals 0. So how can I make x minus 7 equal to 0? And how can I make x plus 2 equal to 0? That's true if x is 7 or if x is negative 2. So again, an extraneous solution means that there's most likely more than one answer. And we can see that in this case right here. We had x equals 7 and x equals negative 2. Last but certainly not least example, we are going to solve an equation with two radicals. So let's say that we have, let's use pink, square root of x plus 2 plus 1 equals square root 3 minus x. So first step I'm going to do is I am going to square each side. So again, separating it, I'm going to square everything over here. I'm going to square everything over here. So if I write this out, again, this is like saying square root x plus 2 plus 1 multiplied by square root x plus 2 plus 1. So I have to FOIL. So take x plus 2, multiply, oops, let's see here. Multiply it here, and then I'm going to take 1, I'm going to multiply here, and then multiply here. So I'm left with square root of x plus 2 times square root of x plus 2 is just x plus 2. I'm going to get square root of x plus 2 times 1 twice, so I'm going to be left with 2 square roots of x plus 2, and then 1 times 1 is 1. I do have some like terms, so we can add these right here. So let's say x plus 4 or plus 2 square root x plus 2 plus 3 equals, and over here it cancels out, so I'm left with 3 minus x. again, we want to get our x's. We want to get everything on the same side. So I'm going to subtract 3, and I'm going to subtract x. So I'm left with 2 square root x plus 2 equals negative 2x. Now I'm going to divide by 2, and get square root x plus 2 equals negative x. Almost done. Got to square both sides one more time. So I'm left with just x plus 2 equals negative times a negative is a positive. So I'm going to say that if I subtract this and subtract this, 0 equals x squared minus x minus 2. We know how to use our factoring x. What two numbers multiply to get negative 2 but add to get negative 1? That's got to be, let's see here, a positive 1 and a negative 2. So 0 equals x plus 1, x minus 2, which means x equals negative 1 or positive 2. That was a lot of work to get that answer, but that's as tricky as it gets when you start with radical signs on both sides.